we've been through a journey for the last 12 years. We're now at a stage where we have to continue moving, and obviously everything you'll see today and the vendors you'll see outside, it's all about the future. So this is really from where we were back in 2006 to 2018. I work at an organisation called COSLA. Now, COSLA is the Confederation of Scottish Local Authorities. It's the kind of equivalent of your LGA. So very much politically orientated. So when I first joined COSLA, this wasn't my scene at all. I'm a technologist. I've been in the web space for since 2000, actually, yeah, 2000. So it's a very strange organisation to come into, but nobody else could run a system like what we had developed. So that's how I'm here. So I'm here to talk to you about My Job Scotland. So My Job Scotland is probably a site that you've never heard of. Anyone heard of it? Oh, good. And you're not wearing a Lumesse top. That's good. Okay, I'll maybe pick on you later on. So My Job Scotland was created, it was an idea that was muted back in 2005, 2006 between 5 or 6 local authorities and HR departments. And these HR departments, some of them were using ATS systems. I think it was about 5 of them using an ATS system. And then they all thought, well, actually, why don't we all group together and do one big system? So that's where I came in. I was employed as a contractor to help out and also assess all the kind of technology that was out there that would help us do that. So essentially where we got to in 2006 was an agreement by everybody within Scottish local authorities. 32 Scottish local authorities said, yes, that's a great idea, let's do it. We got some funding from the Scottish Government and the Improvement Service, and it was the Improvement Service who are essentially our sister organisation. They wanted a consultant to come in and essentially manage and launch this. So that's what we did. We now have 32 local authorities. It took us about 2.5 years to get all 32 on. But since we got all 32, we were then able to expand into other areas. So we're now in the education sector. We've got Scottish Ambulance Service. We've also got the Fire Service. Police Scotland have been looking at us for quite a while, but they've never really got together. So I think, in terms of them and maybe the NHS, they're the kind of two that we're kind of focusing on getting next. So the whole idea of the site was really to have one account where you would apply once and then you could apply for every other job that came up within local authorities. Now at the time, 2006, people said, oh, well, you're getting less and less money. Surely there won't be any jobs in 5 years' time. Why are you doing this? But as you know, there's turnover in every job. And we certainly had that hanging over us for 2 or 3 years. But once you got to the stage that we had all 32 local authorities on board, it was very difficult for anyone to say, actually, what we're going to do. We're not going to recruit. We have to recruit. It's impossible not to recruit. So that's where we are. So I want to go through where we were, where we are now, what we did to get there, what's next, and we'll have some questions at the end. So to understand where we were, we need to kind of go back a little bit. Now, some of you might get the reference, some of you might not. However, back in 2006, when we first started, the Wii launched. You were watching videos by hiring them at Blockbuster. Google had just bought YouTube for $1.65 billion. Twitter just launched. Facebook just launched publicly. You could only use Facebook if you had an education email address. And in 2006, you weren't able to take water on board an aircraft, which you still can't do, or you can slightly, but you have to buy your water once you've gone through security checks. And the iPhone hadn't even launched yet. So here we are, 2006, very much a desktop-based system. And really our challenges were, we were throwing money away. Every advert we placed in the newspapers, we were throwing money away. It may even cost £5,000. It wasn't unusual for an advert in the newspaper to cost £5,000. One advert to be placed once in a newspaper. So you expected people to buy newspapers to get these adverts. So we wanted to change that. We wanted to make sure people have access to jobs 24/7. But not only to have access to those jobs 24/7, but have the access and to be able to apply for those jobs 24/7. Going back to 2006, it was all about application forms. It was all about getting in touch with the council, getting the council to send out a pack. You had to fill in the pack, you had to send it off. Then you had to get that pack back to the council by usually 12 noon on a Friday or 5 o'clock on a Friday. We've done away with all that. But you do believe, some people still think jobs close at 5 o'clock on a Friday. You know, no, they don't. They close at midnight. So that was one of the challenges. We had to kind of make the move and say to people, well, not all our jobs are going to be in the newspapers anymore. And the other thing is, you know, we didn't communicate to candidates either. So even you have a candidate who had interacted with the organisation to get the application form in the first place, it was a case of hoping, just make sure that, or not even make sure, just hope that you got a phone call to say that you're successful. Because I think we were saying in adverts at this time, if you haven't heard from us in 14 days or 3 weeks, assume you haven't got the job. Now, that's not a great experience for anybody. And it's certainly something you would never expect today. However, it does still happen. So, where we are now. Okay, so we're fast forward 2018, we're now 10 years old. So 2016 was when we first had the idea. It took us 2 years to implement that idea. We launched in July 2018, and now we've been doing it for 10 years. It has been an interesting journey, as I've said. We've expanded the system, and really the reason we've expanded the system is because of the technology partner that we use, Lumesse. We were originally using the iGrasp product. And the iGrasp product was one big database at that point. And it wasn't something that we could separate. So we couldn't go to other organisations and say, look, you can have your pool here, you can have your pool here. So that's really been a big plus for us. But just to kind of give you an idea, it was costing £16 million a year to advertise in newspapers. That doesn't happen anymore. The money that's spent for those couple of adverts that used to go into the newspapers will pay for a licence fee for a year for a council. So we very much look at our councils as the main focus of the system. And we have to, you know, we probably place around about 35,000 jobs every single year. We've got about 1,500 to 2,000 jobs that we post a month. And I think last year, in the entire year, it was 540,000 applications we had through the system. Now, that's quite a lot of applications. I don't know if anyone else is kind of hitting that kind of element of scope. But to have that, you have to have, obviously, a very robust system in place. But that's 160 million. That's over 10 years. I would say a fraction of that, it costs £500,000 to run the service every year. That's self-funded, and obviously any additional monies that we make, I'll go into that in a minute, how we make those additional monies, goes towards redeveloping the site every couple of years and really trying to improve the experience for all the candidates. The site's now been built in mobile. Back in the day, as I said, you didn't have a mobile phone, we didn't have to worry about it. But now 65% of our traffic is via mobile. We've created Android apps, we've created iPhone apps, we've had to chuck them away. They're very expensive to keep up and maintain. The software updates every year. You've got different, for example, in Google, you have different systems that you have to adhere to, and it's just costing too much for us to keep up with. So that's why the site is now mobile first. It's completely mobile compatible. As I said, it's now near self-sustaining. Since launching in 2015 using TalentLink, we have created a website where we now have advertising. So not only external advertising, but for other organisations who want to come and just post their jobs, just like any other recruitment board. So we kind of do see the site as just a public sector board. It's obviously the largest in Scotland. I don't know if it's the largest in Britain. It probably is. But we didn't do anything to sell that. We just created the brand, and people came to us. People heard about us. People wanted to use us. So who are we to say, no, you can't use us? But you can't use us if you're not public sector. As I said, it is near self-sustaining, and those other partners help pay for that. And we also got online advertising as well. And really, for the people who use the full ATS product, so that's all our councils and the fire service and ambulance service, for example, it costs them £30, roughly, per job to post, recruit, and hire. Now, you can't say you can do that from a newspaper advert. In fact, you can't even say how many people have applied through the newspaper advert. You can't. You don't have that information. So we've been really lucky. We've won awards right the way through the last 4 or 5 years. We're even lucky to win the Recruit Award back in 2016, which is quite an amazing thing to happen. Not just for public sector, but actually the entire recruitment market. And I think the other thing to say is as well, in terms of the amount of people who have accounts on the system, we've got about, I looked this morning, 770,000 accounts on the website at the moment. Now, that's approaching nearly a third of the working population in Scotland. So to have that many people on our site and have access to our jobs and to be able to apply for those jobs, we're hopefully creating a big pool and a good pool of people, a good pool of candidates for all our jobs. So how did we do it? Well, as Alan said, we work closely with Lumesse. So after creating the brand and the whole idea, we had to find a partner. That partner was Lumesse. Well, it was actually Stepstone initially, but who became Lumesse. But I think over the years, our relationship has become more of that partnership. And I think because we have such a big throughput of people and applicants through the system, we're actually able to feed back a lot of information that we get from our candidates. And it's through that Lumesse listen, and then they develop and they add things into the roadmap that we certainly think that are great ideas that they should have, or people have been asking us for. So it's very important to get your partner right. And now that we've got the partner in place, we've got a great web developer in Glasgow who we use, Spider Online. And this is where we launched this year. So we relaunch the site every couple of years. We have to keep it fresh. We have to keep it up to date. And this one, it just really kind of surfaces the job categories that we've got. We've got featured jobs. It remembers your keywords, for example, cities, postcodes, all the sort of things you expect to see. And as you can see from there, there's roughly about 1,600 to 2,000 jobs at any one point in time. So it's very clean. It's responsive, as I said. So if you're using a tablet, if you're using an iPhone, if you're using, I was going to say a Nokia 3300, but you can't get the internet on that. But yes, any kind of connected device, it will adapt to that screen size. And the biggest part of what I'm keen on doing is really looking after the user. So this is what you see when you come onto the site. We've got filters down the left-hand side. If you use the John Lewis website, you'll recognise this. If you use the B&Q website, you'll recognise this. So when we talk about innovating, I talk about looking at other people. You have to look at other people and see what other people are doing. So there's 2 examples of the retail sector who we've now brought into our site. But you have to do that because people engage with those websites on a daily basis. They may only come to us once a year. So you have to give them something that's recognisable. And a big part of that is the application process. And the application process is key to this. And as I said, 65% of our traffic is mobile. How do we then go to the next stage of making our applications online? Now, it's very easy to send a CV and hope for the best. But councils do not want CVs. So that's the problem we have for a start. We have to manage the different questions that they have to ask on for for different jobs, in fact. So we have to look at that, but we also have to have a look at how people apply. So to do that, we use various things. So this is Google Data Studio, which uses Google Analytics. If you don't use Google Analytics, why not? It's free. But Google Data Studio will actually allow you to import data from your ATS systems or any other system, and then overlay details on it, so you can see there in terms of our positions advertised against applications received, the amount of sessions that we've had. So this is just for last year. And then you can see which channels are driving engagement. And a lot of the channels that drive engagement you would expect to come from referral, but we've actually spent a lot of time optimizing our site for the search engines. So that's why 47% of our traffic is through Google, really. You type in teaching for jobs, Scotland will come up. Put jobs, Scotland will be first or second. We don't pay for that. We just have a well-optimized front-end website. And in terms of the brand name, so this is back in 2006, people typing jobs in Scotland, that's what you would have got. And then you can see us kind of coming in round about the 2008 mark. Well, it should have been, because that's when we started. So we've now overtaken the kind of jobs in Scotland. So essentially we've hijacked that using a brand name. So, as I said, innovation is very key. And the relationships that you have with that are so important. So, you can't have innovation in isolation, not at all. We work with public and third sector. We learn from each other. We learn from all our clients. We have some who we learn from every day because they're on the phone to us every day because they think something's not working. When it invariably is working. Just let me clarify that. But as I said, you have to look at what other people are doing and build on what they're doing. There's no point in sitting back and saying, well, our system doesn't do this. Stop. You can't do that. You have to say, I like that. How can we get that in our system? Now, it might take a little bit of development time. It might take a bit of investment. But you have to do what other people are doing. Otherwise, you'll just stay behind. And really, as I said to you, we had a very difficult start. It was probably, when I say difficult start, it was the whole application process. And I don't know, has anybody found a really good application process yet? Have they? I think that the mobile application process that we're about to launch, and it's actually essentially done in development with Lumesse, is a very slick way of applying. Obviously, if it remembers who you are, great. If you can upload your CV, great. If it can parse your CV and put all the information into the application form, even better. But it's getting to that stage, and it's really, how do we make it easier? And I talked back in 2016 about having a digital locker. I think the time of a digital locker is about to come, where you can actually choose things that you've put somewhere over here. You might have something in Dropbox, you might have something in Google Drive, you might have something in LinkedIn, and you want to kind of mesh all these together into the perfect application. So I think that's where we need to think about getting to. Shameless plug for the Joe Strummer Foundation. Without people, you're nothing. You won't get anything. You won't improve unless you listen to people. Now, it depends on who those people are, but you've got your clients, you've got people in your own team, you've got the people who use the system, you've got your candidates. You have to listen to everybody because you will not be relevant. And really, we have to listen to feedback. As I said, we have clients, we have candidates, we have users, we have people who see things in different ways. And it's all that information that we then feed back into Lumesse. And I sit on can't remember the name of the board, Sue. What is it called? The CAB, yeah. So the Customer Advisory. See, you can remember the last time I went then. So the Customer Advisory Board, which is when clients go and we meet and we kind of talk about our pinch points, where we've had issues over the year, some things that we would think about being fixed, some things about where we've seen in other systems that we may want to see in TalentLink. So that all kind of gets fed back in, and they do listen, and they kind of, they publish a roadmap every year, and we can see where they're going to go over the next 12 months, which is really good. As I said, we update the design every couple of years. You have to keep it relevant. You don't want a site looking like it's from the 1980s, because there wasn't any websites in the 1980s. But if you remember those sites when you first started using the web, you don't want to be there nowadays. You want to be attracting people. You want people to, when they come to your site, have an understanding of what your site's about, know how to get around very quickly. So it's very important that we do that every couple of years. And I say we innovate, but we essentially trying to standardize the application process. The flexibility is there for all our clients to change the application process on the fly for every job. But we want to make the experience as similar for everyone as we can. So standardized approach, but we also need to have that little bit of flexibility. And I think where we're getting to now is social media, your mobile phone. These are the areas that we need to be looking at for the future. There's more of an interdependence between the two of them. And I think as the years go by, social media will change. You can see Facebook tried the jobs thing 4 or 5 years ago. It seems that they're trying it again. We've now seen Google Jobs, which has just come into being over the last 2 months. I think it launched in June, I think it was. So it's very important to keep up with the things that are happening to you, not the things that you have any control of. Google for Jobs is a great example for that. And when we created our new website, we had to make sure that we were complying with what was coming. So this is what happens now if you look for a teaching job in Dundee, and this is what we see from Google. So what's next? Well, a lot of the technology you'll see outside in the rest of the show will be focusing on the types of things like chatbots, AI, machine learning. These are all things that are very important. And there's been a lot of chat in the media the last couple of months about AI and how all our jobs are under threat. And they are under threat. If you have a job that has a process, that job is under threat. So rather than ignoring it, we have to embrace it, but learn more about it, and then perform a little bit better than that. But I think where we can find solace is if you have a look at the amount of applications that we've received, there must be something we can do with machine learning to review all those applications and actually deliver us particular candidates as soon as they register with us, rather than apply for us. We obviously want to make sure that when people come to interviews, there's no unconscious bias being delivered at that stage. So machine learning is perfect for that. Video interviewing, great. We don't want people to come into an interview. We don't want to have a session where you have to block out 2 days to meet people. Use video. Get people to send you videos. Even predetermine your questions. And again, that's something that we can do within our system at the moment. However, I think the other thing is with chatbots, and I think we've all probably used a chatbot, whether it's in Facebook Messenger or otherwise. But I had a chat with somebody on Friday who's created chatbots, but it is really interested in the potential for us to kind of create a careers chatbot. Now, our audience the biggest part of our audience is 16 to 25-year-olds. So we have a lot of people that we need to educate as well as try and get jobs for. So I think using their experience and using experience of other organisations such as Skills Development Scotland, I think that's something that we'll be looking at over the next years, using the two organisations, getting all the information together and trying to build something like this chatbot, which will be a virtual career advisor. And interestingly, I saw a slide the other day there that Gartner was saying that by 2022, 2/3 of our online interactions online will no longer require human intervention. Think about that. That's where we're going.